Hi there, and welcome to this week's edition of The Week in Tri. Here I'm trying a slightly different microphone camera setup to what I was running last week, so if there's any improvement in the sound quality compared to last week, check out last week's video as well, check out this week's one. If there's any changes or differences in the sound quality, please let me know, because sound quality is the one single thing that I am desperately trying to improve on a week-to-week basis. So if you pick up any improvements, or from a negative point of view, if the sound quality has gotten worse, please let me know about that as well, because that way I can improve the video and video sound quality that I produce for you on a week-to-week basis here at The Week in Tri. But without further ado, let's have a look at what we've got coming up this week. Once again, I'll be looking at the three main types of triathlon. First, I'll be looking at XTERRA. Second, I'll be looking at ITU. And thirdly, I'll be looking at what's happening on the Ironman front. So without further ado, let's go and look at what's been happening and what will be happening in each of these three modalities of triathlon. Here we go for this week's Week in Tri. First and foremost, we'll look at XTERRA. And what happened in XTERRA is that the 15th annual XTERRA USA Championship took place at Snow Basin in Utah. And what we had was that Josiah Middaugh of Colorado won the men's race for the second time in 4 years. Last year he was beaten into second place by Ruben Rizafo, who's gone 15 wins from 15 starts on the World Tour. But this year he finished in Josiah Middaugh won in 2 hours 21 minutes 21 seconds, just 26 seconds ahead of New Zealand's Braden Curry. In the women's race, Emma Gerard of Utah has at long last managed to win herself a XTERRA USA Championship after many years of trying, and it's the first time that she's managed to step up to the top step of the podium. With their wins, both Josiah Middaugh and Emma Gerard also wrapped up the top spots in the XTERRA USA Pro Series Championship. This coming weekend, there's nothing major on the agenda as far as the XTERRA calendar is concerned, simply because most of the top XTERRA athletes this week are turning their attention to Sardinia for the ITU Cross Triathlon World Championships. And this year in Sardinia, the ITU Cross Triathlon World Championship will be contested over what's commonly called the standard distance of XTERRA Championship racing, which is a 1.5 kilometer swim, approximately 30 kilometer mountain bike, and approximately 10 kilometer trail run. In the case of Sardinia, the bike ride goes from 30 up to 31, because that's just the nature of the terrain that lends itself to a 31k bike course, and the trail run is slightly shorter at 9.6. So the trail run is 400 meters short, the bike leg is 1 kilometer longer, but it's in the region of your 1.5, 30 and 10. Looking at what's happened as far as the ITU, obviously the big news from last weekend was that it was the ITU Grand Final of Olympic distance racing that happened in Chicago. And in that race, Javier Gomez Noya of Spain became the most successful man in ITU World Championship history when he completed his 5th World Series title as the overall winner of the World Triathlon Series, and a 2nd place at the Grand Final secured him enough points to take that World Series. On the other hand, in the women's side, you had Gren Jorgensen, and Gren Jorgensen was crowned ITU World Series champion for the 2nd time in a row after winning her 12th consecutive race at the Grand Final in Chicago, completing a perfect, undefeated World Triathlon Series season. So by completing an undefeated season, she racked up a perfect 5,200 points in the World Triathlon Series. So there's absolutely no ways anybody could get anywhere close to her. And as far as the run is concerned, she won it in true Jorgensen fashion by gradually winding up the pace during the 10k run and shedding athletes off the back of the group until she got to the 2.5ks from the line, and she just opened up and blasted everybody else away. So that was how the ITU World Series Grand Final wrapped up in Chicago. Looking ahead to this coming weekend on the ITU front is with the Olympic distance racing that wrapped up for the year last weekend. This weekend, attention is being turned to the off-road event, which is the Cross Triathlon World Championship, which is happening in Sardinia. And as I mentioned earlier, it's a set over a 1.5k swim, 31k technical mountain bike ride, and a 9.6 kilometer cross-country run. Looking ahead as far as who will be the names that will be worthwhile looking at, well, for starters, you've got Katrin Miller from Germany. She returns as reigning world cross triathlon world champion after collecting her first title in Zittau last year. Her victory last year came after she dominated and took the crown away from the 2-time cross triathlon world champion Helena Urbanova. This year, Urbanova will not be starting on the start line in Sardinia, so that makes it effectively, looking at it from a pure ITU point of view, Muller's race to lose rather than anybody else's to win, and she vies to pick up her back-to-back title. However, one athlete that should not be trifled with when it comes to racing off-road, and that is Flora Duffy of Bermuda. She finished second to Muller at last year's ITU Cross Triathlon World Championship before going on to win the XTERRA World Championship in Hawaii. And what has been happening subsequently is that previously Duffy has been absolutely dominant on the XTERRA circuit last year, but this year her XTERRA racing has been a lot more quiet because she's been focused on the World Triathlon Series, trying to qualify for the 2006 Rio Olympic Games during the course of the season. However, all of the XTERRA races that she's taken part in this year, she's finished up on the podium. So by no means should you write Flora Duffy off as not being a contender as far as this race is concerned. Personally, I see Flora Duffy taking it from Katrin and possibly another ITU athlete that's done phenomenally well in the XTERRA series, Barbara Riveros. I see her having a possibility of making it up onto the podium as well. Looking ahead to the men's race, this will be the 5th time that the ITU has a Cross Triathlon World Championship. And of the 4 races that have taken place, you have last year's winner Ruben Rizafa and the previous three ITU Cross Triathlon World Championship races that have ever taken place were all won by South Africa's Conrad Stolz. So when looking at the lineup for the men's race, you have to look at defending champion Ruben Rizafa, and you have to look at the previous three-time winner Conrad Stolz. Now, let's have a look at those two athletes in slightly more detail as far as this race is concerned. After being crowned as ITU World Champion in Zittau last year, Ruben Rizafa from Spain returns with the hope of holding onto the crown. And he's also currently holding the honor of being named XTERRA World Champion for the past 2 years in a row. So what you have is that since winning the XTERRA World Championship in 2013, Ruben Rizafa on an international level at off-road triathlon, be it whether it's at the ITU Cross Triathlon World Championships last year or other XTERRA races, at top elite international level, Ruben Rizafa is 15 wins from 15 starts. Nobody has been able to beat him since before the 2013 XTERRA World Championship. The last time he was beaten in an XTERRA race was at the 2013 XTERRA USA Championship, and in that race he finished in second place to Josiah Maddow. But since then, he's won each and every single off-road triathlon that he started. So he has to be the hot favorite going into this race. Then, looking at Conrad Stolz, the man that held the 3 ITU Cross Triathlon World titles prior to Rizafa winning it last year, he's been nicknamed the Caveman due to his consecutive conquests in the off-road triathlon world. And Conrad is returning to put in a really solid effort to try and retain his crown. And the 3-time ITU World Champion lines up on the start list, looking back to get at some of his former glory. Bearing in mind, this will be the Caveman's final race as a professional, and is looking to lay absolutely every single last ounce of energy that he has on the line to be able to pick up the world title as a fitting way to close out a professional triathlon career that has lasted the last 21 years. So it's going to be a really interesting race to watch this weekend when the Caveman and Ruben Rizafa take on each other over the trails of Sardinia. Just a couple of weeks ago, at the XTERRA European Championship held in England, Rizafa won and Stolz was second, just a handful of seconds back. So the two of them are teed up to really go head to head in this race. And to my mind, it'll be between those two athletes and just about nobody else. Then looking ahead to the Ironman modality of triathlon, first and foremost, a little piece of news. After an eventful 3-year running of the Ironman, the full distance Ironman and Ironman 70.3 races at Lake Tahoe, it was revealed today that these races will be discontinued in the future. The statement from the World Triathlon Corporation reads as follows: after careful consideration, the Ironman and Ironman 70.3 Lake Tahoe races will not be continued. We appreciate the efforts and support of the city, volunteers, sponsors, and everyone else involved in putting on this triathlon over the past 8 years. We would also like to thank all of the athletes who have raced with us in Lake Tahoe. That's it. Nothing going into the fact that the year before last, the Tahoe events, because of freezing conditions, had a 20% of the field did not manage to finish the race. It had a 20% dropout rate, all for the fact that last year the races needed to be cancelled because of the air quality, because of bushfires in the area, and this year there were once again bushfires in the area, but the air quality managed to clear itself 2 days before the events were due to be taking place. So that's the big piece of news on the Ironman front. Then looking at last week's races that were held. First, on the Saturday the 19th, there was the Ironman 70.3 in Lanzarote, Spain, and there Annika Janos and Jody Swallow picked up the win. Then on Sunday the 20th was the Ironman in Incheon, Korea. Brett Troutman and Marybeth Ellis, both coached by Brett Sutton, they picked up the wins there. Then also on Sunday the 20th, there was the Ironman 70.3 in Cozumel, Mexico, and Andy Butcherer and Celine Schreier were the victors in that race. This weekend I've got no idea who's going to be the top flight pros that are going to be lining up for the races that are coming up this coming weekend, simply because we are only 2 weeks out from Kona, and I don't see any of the Kona-bound top-lined athletes lining up for a full 140.6 full distance Ironman just 2 weeks out from Kona, but you never know. So let's have a look at this coming weekend's racing on the Ironman calendar. We start on the Saturday the 26th of September, and that will be Mallorca, the island of Mallorca in Spain, and that will be the full distance 140.6 mile Ironman Mallorca, which is effectively, you can say, a doubled up distance on the normal Ironman 70.3 that takes place in Mallorca each year, and that Mallorca race taking place at the beginning of the month of May, and the September race is effectively a doubling up of that. So the bike leg will be 2 laps of the 70.3 distance bike leg, and I'm not too sure how they're going to be putting the run together, because as it is, the Ironman 70.3 was a 5-lap run, so I've got no idea if they're then going to be turning that into a 10 laps of about 4 kilometers per lap, which will become incredibly boring for the athletes, but be that as it may. Saturday the 26th, Ironman Mallorca, Spain, the full distance 140.6 miles. Then Sunday the 27th, Chattanooga, Tennessee, is a full distance Ironman, a 140.6 mile full distance Ironman in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Also on Sunday the 27th, Augusta, Georgia will host an Ironman 70.3. And then finally, on the 27th of September, the third event within the boundaries of the USA will be the Super Frog in California, and that is also an Ironman 70.3 event. So that brings us to the end of the Week in Tri, episode 2. Please give this video a thumbs up if you like this type of content, thumbs down if you don't like the type of content, that way I know what to be putting out in the future, and post any comments, questions, criticisms that you have down in the comment section down below, that way I know how to improve these broadcasts as we go on week. And feel free to share this video out amongst your friends. And last but by no means least, down below the video screen when you're watching on YouTube is a big red subscribe button. hit that subscribe button. That way you stay subscribed to my channel for all of the content that comes out to you on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. Stay carved up for the win and stay safe. I'll be seeing you next time. Cheers.